Good evening, YouTube. How are we all doing on this fine Saturday evening, soon to be Sunday morning? Today is May the 6th, 2017. It will be May the 7th by the time most of you see this, probably. What are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about one of the more interesting things that I think we have not I don't think we've discussed yet when it comes to UtaPri. And it's actually going to deal with one of their licensors in the States, known as Sentai Filmworks. So, we're going to discuss this, and I'm also going to discuss what I think could be next for UtaPri in the storyline. So, let's just sit back and get ready, because this is going to get crazy. Okay, so we need to go back to January of 2014. January 7th, which was when the first season of UtaPri released on DVD, courtesy of Sentai Filmworks. Okay? Now I need us to think about this before we discuss that. UtaPri up to last season had a two-year cycle, we'll call it. What I mean is, season 1 aired in 2011, season 2 aired in 2013, season 3 aired in 2015. Season 4 broke that when it aired last year. It was the first time ever that's happened. So now I'm thinking about that, but I'm thinking about also Sentai Filmworks, and of course, like I said, we're going to be discussing now this. Season 2, as I mentioned, aired in 2013. Sentai Filmworks got the rights to both of those seasons. They put out the first season in January of 2014, and I want to say it was August. I could be wrong, somebody will correct me in the comments. August of that same year. Okay? Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. So, UtaPri had 2 seasons that were licensed by Sentai. Sentai turned around and put out the seasons in an off year. Now, it wasn't known at the time whether or not there was going to be, at the time of the 3rd season. Well, let me rephrase that. They had announced that they acquired the rights after season 3 was announced, I think, on their Facebook page. And then they put out both those seasons in the same year. Kind of like what they're going to be doing with season 3 and season 4. Well, here's what's interesting about the way it worked in Japan. Not only did they have those first 2 seasons, but they also had an OVA. The OVA was called Shining Star Christmas. I call it SXX. You know, kind of like a certain video game series. It stands for Shining Star Christmas, except it's called Shining Star Xmas. Which is where, excuse me, hello. Which is where I got that from. Okay, so now, there's the OVA. The OVA sort of set up what was going to happen in season 3. This is where it gets interesting. So season 3 happens, and season 4 happens. Now, when season 3 happens, Sentai, of course, announces they got the licensing. But when season 3 ended, they didn't put the DVD out right away. I wonder why. Didn't become apparent till you got to season 4, and now they're putting out the DVDs. But we need to back up to season 2 and Shining Star Xmas, because if you have not seen the OVA, you will have almost no clue as to sort of the setup to how we got to the point of season 3 at the minimum. Because the OVAs would be conspicuously missing from a season 2 DVD release and season 3. So you would literally have no clue. Okay, it would make no sense to put it in season 3 unless you were literally making it the first DVD possible. But season 2, you would think it could have. Well, I'm not going to really throw stones at it because maybe there was a licensing thing. So I'm not going to like totally scream at them about it. Because it's nobody's fault. It just happened that way and whatever, you know. You really can't get mad. Even if you want to. So, in 2014, Sentai puts out both of the DVDs. Now we get to season 3, Revolutions. That season happens, which Sentai announces they got the license for. But they didn't put the DVDs out yet. Season 4 happens, they announced they got the license for it in 2016, and now here in 2017 they're putting out both the DVDs. Has anybody noticed something very interesting? There's become a very interesting pattern when it comes to UtaPri. Especially the North American DVD releases. They're coming 2 at a clip. They like you wouldn't put out one season and then the other one. Now maybe this is a standard practice and I'm making a much ado about nothing, which fine. But there was something about that that just struck me as interesting. Because now I'm wondering also, is there going to be a project of some kind, excuse me, now I'm wondering about this project that was announced after season 4 ended. What is the project? There's a couple different possibilities. One is it is the 5th season, which, cool, do the 5th season. Then there's another possibility. There's 2 other possibilities. One was put out there when somebody made a post on April Fool's Day of this year that there was going to be a movie that featured all 3 groups. That's interesting. What makes it interesting was the post that was put out that said there was going to be a movie. You would have thought it would have been picked up by ANN, it would have been picked up by Japanator, it would have been posted on the UtaPri wiki, it would have been posted on UtaPri's Wikipedia page. It could have been posted on a number of things, but it hasn't been yet. Now, that can be because, well, they don't want to confirm it until we get to 5th stage or 6th stage. Okay, fine. If that's the case and that's what they want to do, I'm for it. But what if it's not a movie? What if there's going to be an OVA? Well, would you really use 6th stage to announce an OVA? I don't think so. Like, let's just think about this for a second. You hype up 6th stage and you're going to announce an OVA. Now, if you were going to announce an OVA, but then you go, oh, by the way, that's not it, and then there's also the announcement of the next season, then cool. But you have to make sure that you don't just leave the fans going, that's it. So let's assume for a second. I know it's not a good thing to assume, but let's assume for a second there is going to be an OVA. Okay? what would the OVA do? Well, have we noticed that during the end of season 4, the Quartet Knight was seen in a hallway having a confrontation with Heavens? Makes sense. But it's also very interesting when you think about how in the Shining Star Xmas OVA, what happened? Quartet Knight and Stardust were having a confrontation, and basically that was basically laying the groundwork for season 3 and season 4, the Triple S saga. It's almost like when you really think about the way UtaPri works, and I'm really thinking about this. Every 2 seasons, it seems, builds up to something. See, the first season was the debut of Stars. The second season was the UtaPri Awards where they beat Heavens. Okay, that makes sense. Season 3, they did the thing for... They began the thing for Triple S. And then they had the thing where Heavens comes up with their 7-member group after they lost in the UtaPri Awards as a trio. And here we are now. You get to season 4, bing bang boom, they do the duet project. After they did the cross unit project, which I'm still confused how it's a cross. I'm going to say this about season 3 real quick before I even go any further. Season 3 confused me because how's that a cross unit? The funniest thing is the duet project was more of a cross unit than the cross unit was a cross unit. Because when I'm thinking cross unit in my head, I'm thinking 2 units that would be from different companies. Now, maybe my definition is different for whatever reason, and I know it's probably a wrong definition, but when I was thinking about cross unit, I'm sitting there going, huh? Especially when I found out what happened. Now, turns out that at least 2 of them were actually decent. Actually, one was really good, one was decent, the other one's kind of bleh. But, you know, we all have our own different tastes. Anyway. So, we get to what I call the Triple S saga. And it's interesting when you think about it because in the end, yeah, okay, Heavens loses. Okay, you kind of expect that. But now, you're left with this really weird thing that happened towards the end of the episode, or towards the end of the season, where Heavens and QN have their confrontation. Here's where it's going to get really dicey for Broccoli. And I want people to really just think about this, not just from the standpoint of being fans, but almost from a business standpoint. Or also from a writer standpoint, the way they wrote the end of the season. Raging said he plans on breaking Shining's 20 million record with Heavens. But he walked out without them. Now, that makes sense when you consider that there was a 3-unit performance of Legend Star. I don't get why they needed all 3 units when it's a Stars song, but whatever. They did it. They began the season with a 3-unit song, which, okay, that made sense, but then they ended it with a 3-unit song that to me made no goddamn sense. That's just me. Anyway. So now the question comes, what do you do for a season 5? The answer, from a writing standpoint, is actually very easy at this point. See, if it was me in a perfect world, I wouldn't have had anybody really won. I would have had, or I would have held the declaration of who won until 6th stage. But then that would just make the heartbreak for fans of one group or the other really shit. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I felt like they could have done something creative where Shining and Raging got their heads together and they said, alright, look, rather than being at each other's throats, let's go down there and say they all win. They didn't do that, so, you know, stuff happens. But, I mean, I think they could have done it. They could have found some creative way to do it, but they didn't. Whatever. Anyway, trust me, I vented about that on Twitter for like 20 minutes after the fact. It was the craziest thing ever. I mean, I just went ballistic. And then somebody creates a sock Twitter account trying to get at me. Isn't that fun? Anyway, that actually happened. What do you do with the series now? Well, like I was saying before I went off on my really weird tirade or tangent, if you make the season a Heaven's Quartet Night season, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. It would actually go into the pattern that UtaPri has gone into since season 2. Because think about this. Since season 2, there have always been at least 2 groups involved in the season in some way. Okay? In season 2, it was Starish, and you could argue Quartet Night, but Quartet Night was more of a sideline group. The group that would become the antagonists, and I even hesitate to use that term at this juncture, would be Heavens, which we know what happened in the end. When you get to season 3, Heavens is a sideline group until the final episode. They show up in like the last 4 episodes of season 2. But in season 3, it's Starish and Quartet Night. Then you get to season 4 and they do the duet project with Starish and Heavens. What I'm getting at here though is, if you do if you wrote it the way you wrote it, which is you have the Quartet Night basically having the confrontation in the hallway with Heavens. You have the little subtle thing on the magazine where it says Heavens and Quartet Night. And even the way Quartet Night reacted to how Heavens was being stripped of their opportunity originally, that makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it? And remember also, like I mentioned before, Rege gave back Quartet Night's win to ensure that Heavens got a fair shot at the Triple S. So now the question comes, what do you do with the story? I think you do something like this now. And I've rewrote it in my head about 500 times. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, they do a season where it's Quartet Night and Heavens. But let's say it's done in the vein of the Quartet Night takes Heavens on to be their new juniors. Okay, totally down for that. Now let's say during the course of the season, Shining tries to recruit each and every member of the group away from Raging. the reason he would do this is, if you think about it, Raging specifically wanted, especially when it comes to the bookends, we'll call them, he wanted to recruit Tokia himself, and he was thrilled when he heard that Oto didn't go back to Shining's agency. So wouldn't it make sense for Shining, who's not exactly, you know, a patron saint either? Remember how many times he wanted to strip Starish of Haruka? Remember how many times he's threatened to take their spot from them before they even got to the UtaPri Awards? Remember that? Remember he said, if you don't have Cecil by the time I get on this plane, you're not going to the UtaPri Awards. Remember, he wouldn't. That was in season 2. Remember in season 1 he said that Haruka would not be the composer for Starish. Remember, he also wasn't going to give them their opportunity to participate in the Triple S elections that was forced upon him by Quartet Night. So it would, in a weird way, make, if you really think about it, sense for Shining's underhandedness to want to replace Starish, because, okay, I was thinking about this, and I'm really just going off the top of my dome now, but think about this for me. This is just complete tinfoil. Shining has a group that succeeded. Now, maybe he wants another group that can be number 1. Wouldn't it make sense to try and steal from Raging Heavens and make them the new group that replaces Starish at some point? It would make total sense. And what better way to do it than to have them being coached by his senior group, which is the Quartet Night? It would make the perfect... Look, if you want there to be an antagonist, I just gave you the $1 million story here, because think about it. If you do it where Shining tries to steal Heavens from Raging, and he gets Raging to agree to give him Heavens so that he can be coached by Quartet Night to, quote, beat Stars, because maybe in the back of Shining's head he's thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind seeing my record broke by Heavens, but I don't know if I want Shining to do it, or I don't know if I want Raging to do it. I think I want to be the one to control Heavens. Do you see where this is going? And think about it, right? Because Vaughn wants to date Haruka, which, okay, he'd have to temper those ambitions. And then Ichi keeps saying he wants her to be the composer. Well, doesn't it make sense at this point? And I literally just thought about this literally 5 minutes ago. He can so easily do this. It's not even funny. But to do it, you also have to consider one other thing. He, being Shining, has to get Starish away from the agency. To do that, considering the fact that they've won the Triple S, wouldn't it make sense if he sent them away Then he got sneaky, tried to steal Heavens from Raging, or no, under the guise of wanting them to be coached by Quartet Knight. He has them come to the agency, and poor Raging doesn't know any better, and here he just may accidentally have gotten his group stolen. Like, seriously, I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about this. Okay, if I was really going to write this season now, with the way things happened, how would I do it? That would be the perfect scenario. And you could, and here's what's even better, you could do it with a final season. If you wanted to use the 6th season as the final, you could do it where, okay, Raging wants to keep Heavens because he found out about what Shining was doing, but Shining wants them to get their freedom. So he says, alright, here's the deal. If they beat Starish in one, if you give Heavens one final shot against your top group, and if they win, they get their freedom. But if they don't, they disband for good, for real this time. And then, if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to, there's your way to give Heavens their win. Would it annoy Starish fans? No, because here's the thing. It might, but it would also work out in the end, because think about this. Starish has done what they needed to do. It would also put a bow on the story of how underhanded Shining really has been through the course of the entire series. But it also shows Shining getting his revenge on Raging for what he tried to do to his top group, and he used Quartet Knight to do it. He used Quartet Knight to help Heavens put Raging out of business. Because the other stipulation is the winning agency remains, the losing agency goes. Heavens wins, Raging goes bye-bye, and then they and Starish do one final curtain call for the audience in front of God and everybody. And that's the end. Simple. Because maybe when they do the finale, maybe because they know that Starish did solid for them back at the UtaPri Awards, maybe Heaven says, we know about the disband and we know about the closing for good stipulation. We don't want that. We made too many friends over the Shining Agency to see them go bye-bye. If this is the end for them, it's the end for us too. But we're going to go out together as friends forever. That's the way you end UtaPri. That's the way you end everything. But again, everything I just said, literally, from when we go from season 1 to now, and also with everything else I discussed in this video, it's just complete tinfoil. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it like I'm telling you what's going to happen, because I don't know. I don't know what's on the script or what's on the storyboard that Broccoli and A1 have. But if I was writing it, that's what I would do. And and by the way, I've mentally rewrote this about 15 times. And this discussion I had with a friend of mine on Facebook, this now is what I would do. So, to that particular friend, thank you, because you helped make this video possible, actually. But let me ask you now, if you actually can sit through this video for 30 minutes, what do you think is going to happen if there is a 5th season? Do you think there's a possibility that they actually do the story that way, or are they going to do it some other way that nobody knows about yet? Because that is my picture perfect scenario of how you would actually do it. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And I will talk to you in the next video. Take care, friends.